Welcome to Bring Your Brilliance. Are you ready to find and amplify your voice? Looking to be inspired by those who are already out there making it happen? Listen in as we shine a light on those who bring their full, authentic selves to do what they love, make no apologies, and don't try to fit into other people's boxes. With your host, Carla Taylor, who, after years of being inspired by the brilliantly shining people she was meeting, decided others need to hear these stories too.
Good morning and welcome to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show here on the Inspired Choices Network. I am Carla Taylor. I am your host, and I am excited to share with you this morning all about your brand on purpose. Before we dive into that, though, I wanted to take a moment just to catch up a little bit on some things that have been happening and some places I've been going and some awesome conferences that I want you all to be aware of, because even though they've passed for 2019, you definitely want to have them on your radar for 2020. So first, I just wanted to mention, and I know if you've listened before, you've heard me talk about the Social Media Week Lima in Lima, Ohio, which honestly I'd never heard of before I went there. And if you recall the story, I was actually connected to a woman named Dr. I, who was a college professor who moved internationally with her family and started a Classroom Without Walls movement. And she was somebody I had connected with for a couple of years and had really connected with individually, one-on-one, as well as following her all over Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live. Wonderful, brilliantly shining, bright person who's doing a lot of really good things in the world. And when I saw that she was going to be in Lima, Ohio, instead of out in Asia where she normally was, I thought, wow, that's like 3 hours from where I live, and I'm just going to go there and meet her. I'm a huge, huge proponent of not only connecting with people online, but also making those connections really real. And really, it's about the relationship and building the relationship. And I'll talk a lot more about that. But I went to go meet and I realized it was actually at a conference called the Social Media Week Lima, which drew in some amazing speakers from all over the world, including Dr. I from, I believe she was living in Korea at the time. And there was a gentleman named Brian Wallace, who, if you've been on either on LinkedIn or even you might have seen some of his work in many, many publications. He's been on Fortune magazine, Success magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, Mashable, just about every kind of major media that you can find. He's an infographic expert and a huge LinkedIn person, as well as somebody who goes around and does a lot of the LinkedIn local events. So we are planning to have him come here to help me host a LinkedIn local event here in Indianapolis. And if you are interested in having one in your city, he is the guy who knows how to do those very, very well. LinkedIn local events are open to anyone who wants to host one. It's really this organic grassroots kind of movement. But Brian just cares deeply about building relationships and helping people grow, especially on LinkedIn. So Brian Wallace is the person you want to follow for that. And I met him also then at the Social Media Week Lima conference. And that's where I really cued in on, I'd already had a big passion for LinkedIn, and I'd already had a big passion for personal branding. But that's where I really started calling myself a personal brand evangelist. And people say, that sounds kind of weird. But an evangelist is somebody who's very excited about and shouting the good news about something they really passionately care about. And I passionately care about personal brands. And I've been talking about this for a very long time. I've done a lot of work in the corporate setting and working with employees, but also working with business owners. And for a while, I was really heavily into the tech startup world. And no matter what world you're in, if you have a big business, small business, if you're an employee, a leader, whatever, personal brands are everything. Personal brands are your career insurance for whatever it is that you want to be doing in your life. You want to be known for what it is that you do, what you contribute, what your strengths are. And I'm going to dive way deeper into that in this session. But that's where I really realized people need to hear this good news of the fact that in a tumultuous economy and a tumultuous time of constant change, and honestly, we've always had change, right? But it used to be slower. We used to kind of go push pretty hard, and then we'd have kind of a rest and recovery time, and then we'd push really hard again and a rest and recovery time. And those younger people listening to me probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But Gen Xers and above, we kind of remember the downtime. Those don't happen anymore. We don't have any downtime. There's no more downtime. It's just push after push after push after push after push, because change is happening at a faster and faster rate. And it's never going to slow down. It's going to keep speeding up. Simply look at technology and you'll know what I'm talking about. So that is the world that we're currently living in. It's not going to get any slower. As a person who has been focused on personal and professional growth and development my entire career, when I first realized this, it kind of scared me. Honestly, I was a bit of a panic mode, because that's scary and that's a lot. And I was used to having some downtime. And this is why, if you've noticed, people have started talking more and more and more about self-care and the need to take some time out and to give yourself some downtime. This is why. Because it used to kind of be built into the rhythm of life that we were all in back when things were at a slightly slower pace. And now that that pace is increasing and increasing every year, we have to be, not just a nice to have, but a need to have to be vigilant about taking times down and out of that busyness. And you have to take your vacations. You have to take your downtimes every week and even every day. And I have been one of the worst offenders, especially of the daily part, because I'm just on the go. And I actually just recently had surgery, and I've been forced to take a few weeks off. And my goodness, it's hard. It is hard for me to be slow. It is hard for me to not be on the go, but it's also been a really good lesson for me to recognize the value in slowing down, allowing my body to heal, allowing myself some space and grace to have the things that I need to have in my life. And I've been really able to have some time to be very thoughtful and deliberate about how I really want to move forward from here. So that conference I went to, that was in May. I believe it'll be in May again next year. It is incredibly reasonable in price. It draws top social media influencers from all over the country and hopefully soon the world. But it's a wonderful, wonderful conference. It's in the middle of America. It's right there in Ohio. I highly recommend you put that on your radar. I also attended a conference out in California called Hive. And this is something I did recently. I actually did that in August. And hive.org. Hive is an incredible organization that conference had 350 leaders from 63 countries. And I can't even begin to tell you the connections that I've made and the deep relationships that were formed even in a few days that we have continued to carry on online. And that's the beauty about having both in-person and online connections. And sometimes they start online and move in person. Sometimes they start in person and move online. And either way, it's so much stronger when you have both than just having one or the other. So I highly encourage you to also look at that in your life and see where you can form even stronger bonds and relationships with people that you really want to know. One of the people that I just met at Hive, she and I are going to start doing weekly co-creation sessions. Wow, that was hard to say. Weekly co-creation sessions, even though she's in California and I'm here. Those of us who are creative and collaborative recognize the value in just putting our minds together and seeing what we come up with. So as you can tell, I'm kind of all over the place today, and I'm pretty excited about all of these things. And the reason why it matters to have your brand on purpose is because whether you're connecting online or whether you're connecting in person or both, you've got to have a very clear voice as to who you are. You have to know what it is that you want and what you want to offer to be able to connect and collaborate in a meaningful way. So I wanted to set a little bit of the tone for what we're going to talk about today and why it's so important, because a lot of people are like, go out and connect, go out and network. And yes, for sure, but also know what you are asking for and know what you're needing and what you can contribute to others, so that when you do have an opportunity like the two I've just mentioned, you can immediately connect with those people that you know are going to be strong connections for you. And here's the cool part. When you get really clear on your own personal brand and what it is that your purpose is in life and what it is that you do as far as your strengths, what you do best, what energizes you, people come to you before you even have a chance to say it. It's really crazy, but your energy around it and the energy that you're putting out at both of these conferences, I had people coming up to me saying, I feel like I know you, or I'm really, you seem like a really awesome person. And I just had that happen over and over again. And I did the same to them, that your energies attract, especially when you're super clear. People sense that clarity about you as well. So that's what I want to help you with today. A couple more things to put on your radar. We just recently had a Disrupt HR conference here in Indy. They're all over the place, not just in the city. So look for them in your city or bring one to your city. But Disrupt HR is a really fun, kind of like a TED Talk type of event for people in HR, or people who care about how people work. And but it's a Disrupt HR, so people are kind of being wild and crazy and doing whatever they think is disruptive. But it's a fast-paced, fun event, and one I highly recommend. And there's all kinds of videos from Disrupt HRs all over the country. And also had a chance to meet a fabulous company called Motivosity that I'll talk more about at some point. But they have a really awesome way to connect people at work. So it's all about connections and relationships. And then finally, last night was LinkedIn Global. And LinkedIn Global, this I think was the third year they did it. I really wanted to be there. I was planning to fly out to the New York area to be there. And I couldn't go because I couldn't fly, but I linked in to it on LinkedIn for the LinkedIn Lives that were there. So again, take a look, follow the hashtag LinkedIn Global on LinkedIn to find out more about what happened there. And it'll be coming around next year as well. So this is all the stuff that is the foundation for what I want to talk about coming up. So briefly, your brand on purpose, you want to do something meaningful and finally align your work with your purpose. But do you actually know your purpose and how to communicate it in a compelling way? You want to be fulfilled and happy at work, even and maybe especially if you own your own business. But do you really know what you need to be sustainably happy over time? And you want people to know who you are authentically. But how exactly do you define and tell people that? So today we're going to be talking about my lessons learned from 10 years of working with career and business coaching clients. So be sure to call in with your questions, discover how you can define and communicate your personal brand as you deliberately and purposefully build the work and life you want. So we will be starting with that when we come back from break. Again, this is Carla Taylor. You're listening to Bring Your Brilliance on the Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune into the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Carla Taylor. We are here on Bring Your Brilliance, the radio show here on Inspired Choices Network, and we today are talking about your brand on purpose. So first, let's talk about what do we even mean by a personal brand. Some people think it's like this crazy, in-your-face, people who are looking for fame, whatever. And of course, there are certainly all kinds of people and influencers who are having these crazy, wild personal brands with green hair or whatever. I just saw somebody yesterday with that, so that's what's in my mind. But that's not the only way personal brands can look. And in fact, when I talk about personal brands, what I'm talking about is just who you are. And your personal brand is what you think about you and what others think about you and where those two things intersect. And it's really what people say when you're not in the room. So you actually have a personal brand, whether you know you do or not, whether you've ever thought about it or not, whether you've ever been deliberate about it or not. People have an impression of you. And most of us don't think that much about it. We just kind of leave it to chance. And when somebody asks you that question, well, what do you think people say when you leave the room? Sometimes that can be a kind of scary thought if you haven't thought about crafting a specific personal brand that you want people to know and think about you. And I remember early in my career, I think I'd heard some things like this, and I thought, oh, that seems so forced or arbitrary. But honestly, people are forming opinions of you all the time, and it is very important to think about how you're coming across. And I know there are some coaches who specifically work in things like executive presence or different ways that you're showing up with confidence at work. And it really does matter, all of it, really. I know some people think how you dress, you have to wear a strong business suit. Well, that's true if that's the impression you want to make. And some people, especially in the tech world, tend to wear a much more casual outfit. So how you dress really should fit whatever is the impression that you're trying to go for. But much more so than how you dress is how you're showing up. And your thought process actually comes out, whether you realize it or not, even in just your beingness in the room. And so how you think matters. And you want to be thinking about the types of things that you want to bring to every interaction. And I like to do things in threes, apparently. I have triplets, so I didn't really plan on that one. But because I have triplets, I have been thinking about things in threes for now 17 years. They just turned 17. And so I'm used to thinking in threes anyway. And 3 is a pretty powerful number. There's a reason why phone numbers are broken up into groups of 3 and 4. And it's because our brains just remember threes much better than, or threes or fours, much better than anything longer than that. And it actually takes 3 times of repetition to put something into your short-term memory. So 3 is one of my favorite numbers. And it's just a really easy way to think about what are the 3 things that you want to be known for? Or what are the 3 things that you want to bring to every interaction? And this can change. It doesn't have to be the same 3 for life or even the same 3 every day. I used to tell my kids when they were younger, when they would go into camp in the summer or school, I guess, anytime, to think about, actually when they were younger, I just gave them 1, but think about the 1 thing or the 3 things that you want to bring to every interaction. And so for me, a lot of times my 3 are being a connector, a champion, and a cheerleader of others. And that's kind of my underlying theme of everything that I do, because I do it naturally. I actually was a cheerleader in high school, but I love to cheer people on. I love to have them have successes, and their success is my success, and it makes me really, really happy when people are doing great things. So I cheer for them. I champion them. That's a hard word to say, champion. I champion them, but I really help them see what they could be at their potential and see their wins and tell everybody else about it too. And then I connect people. I do this all the time, everywhere I go. I can't help it. Like, I've even tried to stop myself sometimes, even if I'm on the airplane, honestly. Everywhere I go, I'm connecting people. And I met somebody recently on the airplane on the way back from Hive, actually. And she ended up being in the acting field, and my daughter's all interested in acting, and she has all these connections in New Orleans, and so we started talking about that, and then she was talking about wanting to start her own business, so I was like telling her all these people I could connect her to, and my whole entire conversation on the airplane was about connecting people. And I just do that. That's just how my brain thinks. So what are your 3 things that you want to be known for? And again, it could be you have a theme for the year. You could have a theme for the day. You could have an overall theme. Those 3 things can change, but have 3 and have them in your mind. Really kind of do have an overarching 3, like I mentioned mine, but then you can change some things in and out. And that's the wonderful thing about personal brand too, and even about your career. A lot of people think, the horrible question that we ask our children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, there's some one answer, and there's no one answer, people. Quit asking this. None of us know what we want to be when we grow up, because we never get there, because there is no one thing. And even if there was once upon a time, obviously there's certain tracks that you might be on to be a doctor or a lawyer. But even that can evolve and change of what type of doctor or what type of lawyer. And so thinking that there's a one static answer to that question is really selling everyone short and the process short, because, again, especially now with the speed of change that we're in, most of the jobs that will exist in 5 years don't exist yet. And the ones that exist now didn't exist 5 years ago. So quit putting that pressure on our kids and quit putting that pressure on yourself to have the one end-all, be-all definition of your career, your personal brand. Your personal brand will evolve. So what I'm giving you are the tools to equip and empower you to be able to figure it out over and over again. And in fact, that is why I wrote the Career Happiness Project. It was all about you being the project that you do the research on to figure out your own career happiness, knowing that it will actually change every couple of years. Because even if you don't have a major life change, which is another time you should go through this research project process that I teach people in my program, not only will that happen when you have a major life change, but every 2 to 3 years, our life kind of creeps up on us, right? Like little things. We don't really notice all the little changes, whether it's our kids getting older or ourselves getting older or just life in general and the world around us changing. But every 2 to 3 years, we need to check back in with ourselves and realign and recalibrate to see, am I still on the right track for what I really want in my life and my career? And that's why, again, if you want the full-blown everything tools, please, 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 I've put it into a do-it-yourself version called the Career Happiness Project. If you do that, or whoever you do it with, like find a process that works for you, but have a process that you can go through and realign your priorities and your motivators and that sort of thing. So what I talk about is the 8 career elements, and I put it around this career steering wheel, because if you think about yourself as the captain of your ship, right? You're on your ship, you've got this nice big steering wheel, and whatever's steering you, whatever is driving you, and whatever is that top priority for you might change as you turn your ship different ways. So that's the part that can change. These 8 different career elements can change, and I'll go through those in a second. But the part that stays the same are what I call your career energizers, or if you're a big fan of strengths and Strength Finder, it's your strengths. It's the things that make you feel strong and bring you energy, that those things don't change. That's what anchors your wheel to your ship. So no matter which way the wheel is turning, those are what's powering and energizing your ship to move forward. So let's start with the steering wheel itself and the 8 career elements. And these are everything from your expertise, which these are the things that you've gotten some skills and knowledge around. You might already have a lot of expertise in a certain area, or maybe you're just starting out, or maybe you're transitioning and wanting to get to a new expertise. But your expertise are those things that you want to be paid for, that you have some sort of expertise in. Or maybe it's not even about being paid. Maybe it's about having those co-creation collaborations, but it's what you want to be known for in your areas of expertise. Number 2 are your interests. So what is it that interests you? What do you stay curious around? What is it that if you were sitting on a plane next to somebody, you'd want to talk about? So what are the things that keep your interest? So one way to gauge that is if you had a few minutes or a few weeks of time, what would you Google or what would you research or what kind of book might you pick up in a bookstore? So those interest is the second category. Values. Values are incredibly important. You are never going to be happy in any part of your life if your values are misaligned. So get really clear. I've got a really simple values exercise. There's a lot of ways to do that, but figure out what you value most and what are your top 3 values that drive you. That's a really important area to get clear on. Next, you want to think about culture. What kind of workplace culture do you want to be in? What are the ways of working that work best for you? So think about things like those shared values and the common goals and the ways people treat each other and even what the workplace might be like, and all of those things that are part of the workplace culture. And this is something I'm going to actually tap in a little bit more with Motivasi's expertise. Like I mentioned it. I met a couple great guys at the Disrupt HR conference from there, and they are the experts on culture. So I will actually probably be interviewing one of them very soon on this show. Next is place. So place is similar to culture, but place is really also encompassing where you live, whether or not you have a commute, if you have a commute, how long it is, all the things having to do with location, geography, and everything about the physicality of the place where you live. People, of course, is incredibly important. Beyond culture, what are the people themselves like? Are they high energy, collaborative people? Are they very quiet introverts who are going to leave you alone and let you have your own space? Are they people who have a priority on being very structured? Are they the people who have a priority on being flexible? So think about all the different things that work and don't work for you in terms of the people that you want to surround yourself with. Next, we have growth. So that's another hugely important part of being happy at work. A lot of people are initially happy, but they forget to consider growth, and so they have the initial growth of a new role, but if they outgrow their role, suddenly they're not happy anymore, right? So what kind of growth are you looking for in terms of yourself, your company, the people that you're helping grow? What kind of growth is important to you in wherever you might be going? And finally is rewards. Of course, we need to get paid for what we do. So not only monetary rewards, but things like benefits, things like work-life integration and flexibility and ability to do different things, recognition, all of those things are part of rewards. So again, it's expertise, interests, values, culture, place, people, growth, and rewards. And when you get really clear on those 8 areas, and then you figure out what are the most important ones out of those, that's when you know what your priorities and what your motivators are, as well as what your satisfiers are, because not everything is as important as the rest. So I've got a really awesome exercise to go through that and figure it out if you're not able to just, know it off the cuff. But that's what you've got to know to be able to talk about your brand is first, what makes you up as you, and then what is your key purpose and what is it that you're here to do. So I'm going to start on purpose when we get back from break. We're getting ready to go to break again. This is Carla Taylor here on Bring Your Brilliance. We are talking about your brand on purpose. We're here on Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune into the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Okay, welcome back. We were just talking about the 8 different career elements. Again, this is Carla Taylor. You are listening to Bring Your Brilliance on the Inspired Choices Network. And also wanted to give everyone a heads up of what's next with Bring Your Brilliance. I have actually, since I had a little bit of downtime, just completed the bringyourbrilliance.net website. So check it out. If you need help bringing your brilliance and you want someone to help you create and grow your personal brand on social media and specifically focus on LinkedIn, please check it out on bringyourbrilliance.net. It's my social media ghostwriting service that will help you if you're not the best writer or you just need a little more guidance or you just honestly don't have time. Most of us don't actually have the time. Even if we have all of the intention and even all the clarity, we don't necessarily have the time to do what we need to do to grow our personal brand. And so I've created a service where I will meet with you once a week, and basically you get to do a brain dump. You get to talk to me for an hour. You get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'll ask you a bunch of questions. You don't have to worry about how you're saying it or what you're saying. You literally get to do a brain dump, and then I make it sound awesome and help create different posts and articles and things for you to grow your personal brand. So if you're interested in that, please check it out on bringyourbrilliance.net. I'm super excited to finally have a website for that and be able to continue to help people with that because it's really rewarding for everyone involved, including and especially me. I love helping people and getting to know how they think and being able to help give a voice to that. That's really what Bring Your Brilliance is all about. Okay, so back to where we were. We talked about the 8 career elements. And the reason why I went through those first is because a lot of people talk about starting with why. Simon Sinek, I love Simon Sinek. If you haven't heard of him, please run out and look him up. He has a very famous, I think it was a TED Talk, but it's been around, I think, 10 years now maybe. But it's called Start With Why. I think he has a book now about it too. And he talks about the golden circle with why in the middle. And most people start with what they do and how they do it, but they don't talk about the why. But when you start with why, that's when you have that really compelling message. So Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K is how you spell his last name. Incredible stuff, but I don't actually agree that you start with why in your personal brand because you don't necessarily know what your why is until you know who you are and what you want. And so once you know your why, then yes, start with why. He's absolutely right. But how do you get to know your why? That's what we're talking about. And so first knowing those 8 things, the 8 career elements, like we just talked about. Again, I'll go through them one more time. Number 1 is expertise. Number 2 is interest. Number 3 is values. 4 is culture. 5 is place. 6 is people. 7 is growth. And 8 is rewards. Once you have defined what it is that you want and which of those are your top 3, now you know what it is that you want to do for work and what it is that you want to do in life that's going to make you happy in the next, like I said, every couple, 2-3 years, you need to recalibrate and check back in, or every time you have a major life change. But now you know what you're driving towards. So then you get to get clear on, okay, so now that I know that I want, let's say this level of income and I want to live in this kind of place and be around these kind of people, what is it that I want to do as my major impact on this earth? And again, that can change over time, but right now in the next few years, what is it that I want to be focused wholeheartedly, 100%? What is my driving why that matters most to me? And so you want to think about questions like, what action do I want to take? Or what contribution do I want to make? And then who do I do it for? Who do I help? And when I think about those people, what do they want and need? Not what I want for them, but what is it that they need and they want, and what can I do to help them with their needs? How do I serve them? And then how do they change or transform as a result of what I give them? When you ask yourself those questions, you're going to get pretty clear on what it is that is your purpose. And so you want to then go through, and I believe this actually comes from Simon Sinek, your purpose statement is, if you think about I blank, and the first blank is I, action you take. So you do this action, I, action you take. For, who do you do it for, is the next blank. 2, what is the need or problem you solve is the third blank. And then so that the difference you make or the value you create is the fourth thing. So for example, when I was writing my career happiness program, my purpose statement was I create career coaching programs, that's the action I was taking, for, who was I doing it for? Multi-talented professionals. So that's who I'm doing it for. Why? What is it that they need? So I do that for them to find career happiness, so that what difference does it make for them? So that they love what they do every day. So my purpose statement, again, I create career coaching programs for multi-talented professionals to find career happiness so that they love what they do every day. So now I have a purpose statement. And again, it can change, it can evolve, but you need to have a starting point. So you need to have some sort of a purpose statement when you get ready to define your personal brand deliberately. So now that I have this purpose statement, my personal brand for many years has been all about creating career coaching programs. I wrote the Career Happiness Project. I did things around Work Happy. Actually, even the tech startup that I was doing, which was called Ideavise, but it was all about bringing people and ideas together in on-demand workspaces and helping people love the work that they were doing and the people they were doing it with. So my overarching theme is still this career happiness, work happy, all of those things. And so that's the starting point for your brand on purpose. You want to have that purpose that's underneath everything else that you do. And yes, it is the I, action you take, for, who you do it for, to what they need, and so that's the difference they make. And that is the crux of everything else that you do. And I mentioned earlier in this program about the different conferences and places that I'd gone, and this is actually how we culminated the end of the Hive experience, was that everybody, all 350 people, got up in the front of the room one at a time and said their purpose statement. And it's just super powerful because there's these powerful leaders doing powerful things all over the world, and when you know it and can say it that quickly, and it doesn't even have to be that long, you can just say, I create career happiness in this world. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be that long version of it. We actually did the short version of it at the conference, as you can imagine. It didn't have taken too long to do the long version. But just when you know it in a nutshell and you get really clear and you know this is your purpose, then, like I said, once you're that clear and once you're that confident in it, before you've even had a chance to tell people, you've got this confidence about who you are and what you do that compels people to come to you and ask you. And now you also have to have that ready-made answer, and you have it because you've already figured it out. So that's why it works so well to get that clear and confident in what your personal brand is, because it's not about, like I said, this crazy influencer world. It certainly can be, and if that's the world that you want to be in, more power to you. It's a great, fun world. It's got a lot of exhilarating parts, and that's what a lot of people love. And I'm not discounting that in any way, but I know that intimidates a lot of people. And so that's why I want to make sure you know that personal branding is really just about you being you, who you are authentically, everywhere you go. And so when you go through a little bit of time to be deliberate and thoughtful about who it is that you are and what it is that you do, and you know how to say it in a succinct way, everything else becomes easier. And I know a lot of my career coaching clients over the years have been like worried about, well, what if I paint myself too narrow of a box? Well, first of all, I don't believe in boxes. I believe in wherever you are, standing out and looking out at opportunity and not narrowing yourself into a little box. But having a well-defined version of speaking your truth, which can change, like I said, anytime, but being able to say it in a confident and clear, compelling way brings you actually way more opportunity and allows you to go into all kinds of places that you wouldn't have been able to go before. And in fact, when people are looking for a job or looking for their next opportunity, the worst thing you can do, people, listen up, the worst thing you can do is to say, I can do anything, or I can help anyone, or I'm looking for any company that, whatever the next phrase is, because saying anyone or anything immediately negates anything else that somebody might have thought of to refer you to. Nobody knows anyone. Nobody knows anything. And so our brains, and again, I'm going to go a little old school here, our brains are kind of like a mental Rolodex. For those of you who may not know what a Rolodex is, it was a rolling file of all the people that we knew so it's now what we have on our phone on our contact list, but we used to have an actual rolling file of contacts. And so when you go through your mental Rolodex or your mental version of your phone contact list, if somebody says, I'm looking for a career coach who specializes in career happiness, okay, I can think of 5 people right off the bat here in my city that do that. But if you say anyone who can do anything, I don't know anyone, and then immediately all the thoughts come out of my head and I can't think of anybody to refer you to. But when you get really, really specific about what you're looking for, even if I don't know anybody who's a career coach, I'm going to be like, oh, well, this person, they're in HR. They might know some career coaches, or that person just went through a career change. That maybe they talked to some career coaches. And so you'll find the next best thing, even if you don't know the exact thing to refer that person to. And so when people are on the job search, or they're looking for opportunities for their business, or they're looking for people to pitch their tech startup to, the more specific they are about who they are and what they're looking for, the more referrals they're going to get. And it's really like magic. It's awesome, because I've seen so many people who had conversations with their friends and family, and they kept saying the anyone and anything thing, and nobody could help them. And then as soon as they got clear and as soon as they started having these kinds of conversations, the same people they'd already talked to who had nothing for them before suddenly had like 5 or 10 referrals or recommendations for them. It is like having a magic wand. I guarantee you'll have different results if you get super specific. So I'm going to leave us here right before we go to break. We're going to come back and talk more about what to do from here after you get specific, after you know your why, after you've been deliberate about knowing what you want. We'll talk about that when we get back from break. Right now, I'm Carla Taylor. You are listening to Your Brand on Purpose on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show on the Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back for our final segment here on the Your Brand on Purpose topic here on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show. We are on Inspired Choices Network. If you've ever thought about being on the radio, please reach out if you want to be a guest, or even better, you could be a host and reach out and check into having your own show if that's something that you're interested in, because I can tell you it's awesome and incredibly rewarding to have a platform, but also to have this amazing team of producers who help me in every way And I actually started Bring Your Brilliance as a podcast, and I love the idea of podcasting. I went around, I had a whole bunch of interviews. I actually did, I think, like 10 different interviews. But I'm such a people person, and I'm also somebody who does really well spontaneously. So having to sit in an editing room and get all my stuff figured out and edited and whatever, all the good things you have to do to produce good sound, all the things, that was overwhelming. It was so much to learn. I was getting behind. I wasn't prioritizing it because it wasn't fun to do the editing part for me. Some people love that, but it was just not for me, one of my strengths. And so I went 6 months and then another 6 months without really getting all of my episodes out the door. So I realized that I needed the weekly accountability, but also all the help and the social aspect of having a team of people to have a radio show and to be able to go out live and then interview some of these amazing, awesome people that I'm having, but actually have everyone hear their interviews as well. And I'm saying that also because I'm really excited that next week, and I'll say this again at the end, but next week we are interviewing Mike Blankenship, who was one of my first podcast interviews, and I actually interviewed him before he and his wife left on their digital nomad journey that they have now been on for over a year, traveling the world with their daughter. I think she was only 1 at the time. And so I can't wait to talk to him next week because I actually haven't talked to him in person. We've done a lot of messaging back and forth, but this will be our first live conversation since a year ago. So definitely tune in. But anyway, I just wanted to plug all of that, but also especially the fact that this radio show has been amazingly helpful for me to get content out consistently. And the whole point of all of that is once you have figured out your personal brand, once you've been deliberate and thoughtful and purposeful about your why statement, once you know how to communicate your brand in a compelling way, the next thing, the next C, is to be consistent. Because it doesn't matter if you know all those things, if you never talk about it, if you don't communicate it, and you don't communicate it consistently. And that's why consistency is key, because you can tell your personal brand to a few people. You can, even if you don't want to be out big in the world, you still need to be consistently communicating your personal brand, even to your boss, because guess what? Even if you have the most important, not important, but the most supportive environment, if your community around you, your company is all about helping you in your career and your boss is all about helping you in your career, but you still don't know how to communicate what you want or you don't do it consistently, they're busy and they've got a lot of priorities and they've usually got quite a few other employees that they're helping. And so you still have to be that consistent voice in asking for what you want. So it may be at that level that you're being consistent, but for most of us, and the reason why I talk about personal brands as your career insurance is because jobs don't last anymore, people. Nobody is going to be in one place for the life of their career. It's just not the way the world is working anymore. And so if this is a shock to you, you probably have been sitting in a cubicle for too long. But it's going to happen inevitably to everyone at some point. And so having a personal brand that is bigger than your current role, that's bigger than your current job, that's bigger than your current company, even and especially if you are a business owner, you still need to have a personal brand that transcends all of that. And again, your personal brand is who you are authentically everywhere you go. That way, if your company pivots or if your job goes away or if you want the next cool assignment or whatever it is, you're going to be known for what it is that you bring to every interaction. Again, remember back to earlier, I talked about my 3, being a connector, a champion, and cheerleader. So whether I was doing a tech startup, whether I was in HR, whether I was doing Bring Your Brilliance, whether I was a social media ghostwriter, whether I was a career coach, whatever it is that I've been doing, I'm still a champion, a cheerleader, and a connector for everyone around me. And that's what I'm known for. So people who know me and want that in their life are going to keep knowing me and working with me and wanting to be around me because that's what they want. And that's why it's your career insurance or your pension plan that survives everything. And that's what's super cool too, especially for those of us like me who are multifaceted and multi-talented and can't always pick just one thing, that I can be known for this one thing of who I am and how I show up, even though I can be doing a lot of different things underneath that. So your personal brand is who you are being, and the doings, you can have 1 or 2 or 5 different streams of income or different ways that that shows up. But your personal brand is that overarching piece to everything else that you do. Does that make sense? Okay, so once you have all that figured out, you want to be consistent. Now, consistency doesn't mean saying it in every conversation. And consistency doesn't mean saying it every single day or, for some people, they like that. And, one of the people at LinkedIn Global last night, I think their top number of posts on LinkedIn in one day was 20 or 21. So some people, that's great. That's fine if you want to do that. But even if you do it 3 times a week, and again, I love 3s, and 3 times a week is a really good starting point, or even once a month doing it, or 3 times a month, whatever that pace is for you. But be consistent. People should be hearing consistently from you, and whatever that looks like for you in the field that you're in. Be consistent. Know what you have to say. Say it consistently. Say it clear and compellingly. And now people know what it is that you need. Again, remember that anyone or anything, don't say that, but say specifically and consistently who you are and what you do. And then don't be salesy, people. Don't sit there and try to sell someone, or don't connect with someone on LinkedIn and immediately start spamming people with all the things you can sell to them. It really, truly is about building relationships. And if you're meeting a new person and making a new friend, you're not going to be like, "Hi, Paige, I'm Carla, and here's all the things I can sell you." No, you're going to say, "Hi, Paige, I'm Carla. You seem awesome. Let's get to know each other." And the same thing that you would do in person is what you want to do online, and being able to build relationships over time. So think about that as well. Consistency is key. Consistency is also how you build friendships and relationships. So the same thing is true for your personal brand. So we're about out of time. I have so much more to share as always, but tune in again. I will actually be doing these strategies for success every first Friday. We're a little bit off schedule because of my surgery this month, but we will be having these strategies for success the first Friday of every month. And like I said, next week, I'm so excited to check back in with Mike Blankenship. He is a writer, copywriter. He is a very talented guy. He's got a program called Get Your Gusto Back, and he really, really lives what he talks about. He walks the talk, and he is traveling the world with his wife and daughter, working from everywhere, living from everywhere, and he's what is called a digital nomad. So if you've never heard of that term, tune in next week. You'll hear more about it. If you have heard of that term and that's something that you have some interest in learning about or just are inspired by, again, we'll be talking to Mike Blankenship about the digital nomad life, living the digital nomad life next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on the Inspired Choices Network. So be sure to tune in. And once again, if you want to learn more about the Career Happiness Project, please go out to www.itstimetoBringIt.com. If you want to know more about social media ghostwriting and helping you bring your brilliance, please go to www.bringyourbrilliance.net. Happy to help you in whatever way I can. Or if you just want to say, hey, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I believe it's linkedin.com/in/Carla J. Taylor to connect with me. But either way, you should be able to find me with Carla Taylor, Bring Your Brilliance. And just remember to be bold, be brave, be brilliant, and be you, and be the authentic you everywhere you go, no matter where you are. Be yourself, build relationships, connect in person, connect online, and get out there and have fun while doing it. So until next time, this is Carla Taylor on Bring Your Brilliance on the Inspired Choices
Thanks for
Network.
listening to another episode of Bring Your Brilliance with Carla Taylor. For the latest updates and info on personal branding, please follow and interact with Carla Taylor on LinkedIn. And be sure to visit www.itstimetoBringIt.com. Join Carla Taylor every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then,